Rock never stops. The NBA draft is here. Yesterday was round one, and that was a doozy. Igor Denham going that high, Con Knipple going that high. Lord knows why you draft a role player in the top five pick of a draft. Makes no damn sense. And Igor Denham, I have no idea what Brooklyn is doing, especially when they follow that up with Ben Saraf and the French dude, Traore. So they grabbed 3 point guards. Well, how did that work out for the last team that grabbed 3 point guards in the draft? Uh, who's that? The Minnesota Timberwolves passing on Stephen Curry. Yeah, I think they got Johnny Flynn, Ricky Rubio, and somebody else. Right? Didn't make a lot of sense. And in this draft, if I'm honest with you, I don't know how much sense a lot of this stuff made, but I do think some teams did really well. I really liked the Chicago pick. Um, let me pull up his name so I pronounce it correctly because we're gonna get into the draft big time today. Big time. My man Noah Asinge. I'm gonna be honest. I think Noah Asinge is probably one of the most slept on draft prospects. Um, I think he's somebody who reminds me a lot of the Giannis Antetokounmpo archetype. Not necessarily the same game. Please don't aggregate me saying I think he's the next Giannis. He's not. He plays very different. He plays more off the ball. Imagine like a 6'10" Sean Marion, a guy with a high motor who can get up and down the floor, get on the offensive glass, defensive glass, is going to be able to guard a bunch of positions, and just his general activity combined with his size and acumen, he's able to be extremely disruptive. And I think that that's going to be someone that they can stick into that power forward position for a long time, and it's going to be highly productive. But I thought that they did a great job in the draft. Other teams I thought did a great job in the draft. Um, Let me pull it up here. Was the New Orleans Pelicans. They did a great job in the draft. Jeremiah Fears, Derek Queen, I thought are two guys who can come in from day one and contribute in areas of need. They gain depth in the front court and at the point guard position. I think they picked up Jordan Poole in a trade, and I thought that that was a great trade to get off of CJ McCollum's money and also get someone who could be a little bit more productive and giving them a little bit more pop at that lead guard position that they've been needing. Um, and then when you have teams like, well, man, I got to be honest with you. I was a little bit thrown off by Toronto's pick. Um, Colin Murray Boyles, I thought he would have been perfect uh, for the Phoenix Suns. And then Phoenix Suns grabbed Kamen Malawach after trading for Mark Williams. And then they draft another center, I believe. No, they didn't draft another center. They traded that pick. But all to say is they end up with two centers and they still got Nick Richards. And I believe another center there in Phoenix. So who knows what the Suns are doing? Who knows what Brooklyn is doing? Except maybe Brooklyn's trying to continue to lose because they're betting on the 2026 draft, which is better than this one. So maybe that's the route. All that's to say is Detroit has their pick today, number 37. And I want to get into some of these prospects. I want to get into some of the philosophy around how I approach the draft. I know that the NBA there's this moniker that they're a copycat league. I think that that's to many teams' detriment. I feel like if you're trying to copy what someone else is doing, man, you're weak. That's just a sign of being lazy. It's a sign that you don't really believe in your own ability to put together a team, and you got to copy what someone else is doing, believing that their success can be yours. All right, I think that that's foolish because there's no two exact same players. In fact, there's not even two pretty close to players. Most players are completely different from one to the next. Different height, size, potential, skills, length, athleticism, versatility, experience, confidence levels, right? So trying to copy, like, let's say Patrick Williams. right? Had all the measurables and physical intangibles of a Kawhi Leonard. We see how that's panned out for the Chicago Bulls. And yet, I think he's a very effective player. The problem is if you expect him to be Kawhi and that's your outlook for him, right? Now your team is going to be screwed. You have a misexpectation. You're trying to look like somebody else. You're trying to make someone fit into somebody else's game and body and all that. Accept who you got and build the best team around these fundamental principles of what it means to be effective and to win at the game of basketball. Right. And this is how I approach the draft. This is how I approach team construction. This is how I sniff out teams that really aren't trying to win, like Charlotte, Utah. Probably should have charged the speaker. 1 second. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. Can you hear me now? We good? Thumbs up. We got action. One of the things that is fundamentally consistent, appreciate that, Mike, about winning teams is they start off with basic principles. Basic principles. Defense wins games. Defense is one of the most controllable aspects of team construction and creating a culture that allows you to win and be successful at the game of basketball. Defense. Defense. Not just stopping the other team from scoring, but the ability to utilize those turnovers, rebounds, as an opportunity to get early offense, to get out in transition when it is easiest to score. The other team is on their heels, transitioning from offense to defense, trying to figure out their matchups. You find mismatches. There's open lanes to the rim, angles, and you're able to catch them off guard and score easily. So teams that start with that generally build winning programs and organizations from there. Oklahoma City, Indiana, right? Indiana took its big jump after they traded for Pascal Siakam and became a defensive minded team, right? They were not a defensive minded team when they only had Miles Turner. It was Pascal Siakam's defensive versatility in conjunction with Miles Turner, Aaron Nesmith's insertion to the starting lineup, and then Andrew Nemhard as well, right? Then they became a defensive minded team. That's how they ascended, right? And so that's some of the philosophy that I have going into a draft. What allows you to reinforce your foundation? What allows you to consistently reinfuse that foundation and team identity with the energy it needs to be successful? And that's defense. Now we're going to build on top of that. Along with defense, you need rebounding. You have to secure the rebound. If you can't secure the rebound, then your defense is less effective. So that goes hand in hand, defense and rebounding. Now, this team has a good amount of both of those things. But one thing that we did recognize throughout the playoffs is that you need depth of those things. And I've been saying this over and over. That versatility and skill is king. Versatility and skill is king. Once you get the defense and you got the rebounding, versatility and skill is king. When you looked at the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I'll just use them as an example, but I'm going to go through several other teams as well. Players that are able to play a high level of defense and have positional versatility, meaning that they can guard different positions. They can also attack you in different ways, finishing at the rim, shooting from the 3-point line, putting the ball on the floor, making solid pass reads. Players that were able to do that at a high level, even if shooting was not what they were known for, were far more effective than guys who are solely known as shooters and who lack the ability to do all the other things. So guys like Isaiah Joe didn't get as much playing time. Guys like Ben Shepherd got less playing time. Even guys like Benedict Mathurin was really up and down because he couldn't do the other things. And so bringing in guys who could do other things is extremely effective and important when it comes to building a winning organization. And so when I look at this draft, I'm not looking for one trick ponies, right? I'm not looking for guys who can do one thing really well. It's maybe they're a rebounder, maybe they're someone who's just athletic. I'm looking for guys who are versatile in their skill set, guys who can defend multiple positions, can do various things while they improve their ability to shoot. Now, if they shoot well off the bat and they do a bunch of other things, well, then they're probably like Neek Clifford, already drafted, right? Or they're probably like, what's his name, Carter Bryant, right? These guys are already gone in the first round, right? They play defense. Uh, they have a good basketball IQ, diverse skill set, and they're versatile players. Okay, they're already off the board. But now in the second round, I think there's still guys available, but those guys are more unknown. And this is where it gets really promising. Because as we saw someone like Cedric Coward really advance in the draft, like he was last year, I don't think he was on anyone's radar. And I would say the general consensus, like he was known, but he wasn't necessarily seen as a lottery pick, right? End of the second round was where he was pinned when I started tracking him around New Year, around like December, January, right? He was listed end of the second round, and all of a sudden he starts climbing, and now he's in the lottery. I think there's other guys who fit his prototype. They just don't have the physical tools, and their skill is not as cleaned up, right? It's not as smooth, right? Cedric Howard's handle is extremely smooth. How he gets into his shot creation, his bag, how he lets his shot off, his length, his finishing, right? These things are really refined for a guard. And so those are some of the things that really confirmed to a lot of scouts that yes, he was going to be able to be worth a first round pick or a lottery pick because he was going to be able to come in and contribute from day one. But there's other guys who are like that. There's other guys who are like that. Maybe they don't have one or two of those aspects, though. They don't shoot it as well. They don't get into their shots as well. They're not quite as versatile in their skill set, but they still have that framework. Let me get to some of these comments because this is an interactive chat. Would you give up 2 additional seconds to move up to get Fleming? No, no, no. And I'll say this. I'm still high on Bobby Clement. I still think Bobby Clement has got game. I think he could be very effective for us. Uh, I don't like drafting over the top of guys. That's what a lot of coaches do in college when they recruit guys. Many times they recruit guys and then they recruit over them without telling them. And what it does is it deflates. It doesn't necessarily motivate. It can deflate a lot of guys to feel like they were lied to, that they really weren't believed in, that there's a level of disconnect between them and either the coaching staff or the organization that, oh, okay, this is what y'all about. Okay, bet. I got to be out for mine. I got to go get mine. This whole team thing, it sounded good. It sounded good. But then we realized it's really just about you stacking as much talent. So I'm going to be out for mine. And that really dissuades from the cohesiveness of a team. So I would not want to bring in a Rasheer Fleming to be like, yeah, now you fight it out with Bobby Clement and Simone Fontecchio and Isaiah Stewart, because he would also be small ball five-ish, right? That doesn't make sense, especially when there's specific needs that we have elsewhere, which is where I'm going to lean towards. And let me get to this other comment here. I would love if we could get one of the 7-footers or Chaz or Brea. So once again, I think the 7-footers, Ryan Kalkbrenner and Maxime Reynaud, I think are going to be really solid rotation centers for at least, I would say, the next 5 to 6 years, right? Going into their, because they're already somewhat in their prime because they're seniors. So they're ready to go, less of a ceiling to continue ascending. Though I do think Renault has a little bit more. But I'll say this that I think that they are going to be like career journeyman backups, which I don't think is a bad thing in terms of career. I think they could be really effective. But if I already have Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren splitting minutes, why would I draft someone who's going to be your fourth string center? Because you still got Tolu Smith, who has the inside track on the organization's culture, identity, playbook, right? Expectations. So now you're going to draft him in the second round to compete with three other centers. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily do that. I wouldn't. But Chaz and Kobe Bryant, I'll say this, and this kind of gets me to the first player who I would say is on the top of my list, on the top of my list for the Detroit Pistons to draft. On top of my list is Kobe Sanders, not Brea, Sanders. Kobe Sanders. I posted about him on X on Twitter. Had a nice conversation about him in Spaces. Kobe Sanders was I think he was like a 5'8", 5'9" point guard going into high school in his freshman year. From that point, he would proceed to grow about 2 to 3 inches almost every summer from year to year. And he would stop growing at around 6'8" in shoes. So 6'7 3/4", 6'7 1/2". He measured out without shoes. And I think he has about a 6'9", 6'10" wingspan, something like that. So his wingspan is not great, but it's his skill that I love. At about 6'8" and change, he's about 220 pounds, somewhere around there, 218, 222 pounds, something around there. But he has legitimate on ball skill, like legitimate. I can facilitate the ball. I can make high level reads. I can orchestrate the offense, right? I can manipulate the defense, right? He kind of reminds me of Delano Banton, size for a facilitating forward who can legitimately get you into your offense. But I would say Kobe Sanders has more shot creation and shot making ability than Banton does. So at 6'8" and change, what I'm seeing is someone who could be kind of a point forward. He has a nice kind of scoring package where he can get to the rim, finish with either hand. He has decent athleticism. He doesn't have elite athleticism, but he has really good positional size and a really good motor. And he reminds me a lot of Cody Martin. Ironically, the Martin twins who played for Nevada is where Kobe Sanders comes out of. So he has the kind of prototype for being an on ball forward, kind of point forward type of a role, and how to develop his game to be really effective in the NBA. He's one of those guys that I think teams are going to look at and be like, man, you know what? He may not have been worth a lottery pick, but he's going to have a 10 to 12 year career. Think guys like Bruce Brown, guys like Josh Hart, right? These kind of utility guys who can do a little bit of everything for you at a really good level, at a really good level. And they're going to be great. They're not going to be all stars, but they're going to be very effective. They're going to be really effective. They're going to be guys who can come in and contribute even in the playoffs. They're going to be able to do little things throughout the course of a game that help you to win and help supplement if a starter is struggling. And when you have a 6'8" point forward, you now have someone who has the ability to legitimately see over the defense, make good reads to make other players better while being trusted to create for himself. And I feel like that caliber of a player, that skill set in the playoffs is going to be everything for us. So Kobe Sanders is somebody who is my number one guy, number one guy that I would want for the Detroit Pistons to select at 37. And that's, yes, over Rasheer Fleming, over Adu Thero, right? Definitely over Kalkbrenner and Reynaud, because I'm also thinking about playing time and opportunity. The next guy is kind of like his highlight shows a lot of catch and shoot. No, that might be Kobe Brea out of Kentucky. Kobe Sanders out of Nevada. Check out his highlights. Yeah. The next guy that I want to take a look at is actually two. Actually, two. 1 second. Pull it up here. And it was already brought up. Chase Lanier or Chaz Lanier, and Jamir Watkins for two different reasons. Nevada Wolfpack. Yep. Chaz Lanier to me is a high level shooter. He's something between Desmond Bain. I'm trying to get a good. I think he could be Desmond Bain with more defense because he has more length. Right? He's 6'5". He's a solid, a legitimate 6'5" in shoes, but he has a 6'9" wingspan, which means that he should be able to defend on the perimeter a lot better. And when I watched his game, he looked extremely effective off ball. He kind of has a Tim Hardaway Jr. game, but I would say he moves even better off ball and finishing around the rim. He's shown the ability on the move to catch, pump fake, put the ball on the floor, finish at the rim with a floater, as Bain does often, a little push shot floater from just inside the free throw line, or he can finish with either hand finding angles on the backboard, right? Something that Tim Hardaway Jr. hasn't necessarily developed. Yo, Tony, what's good, man? It's good to see you in the chat, bro. It's good to see you. Good to see you. Salute. So to say, Chaz Lanier for us, I believe, is someone who can come in from day one, give us more defense than a Tim Hardaway Jr., and also a little bit more playmaking and shot creation than Tim Hardaway Jr. was able to do. But I like that positional size, 6'5", 6'9" wingspan, while at the same time being able to shoot off ball and score moving off the ball. If you watch his highlights, he moves extremely effectively off ball. And that is high praise for somebody who was their team's number one scorer or go-to option or high-level scorer that the team was looking to be that primary shot maker. And the fact that he stayed in college longer, there's a different level of confidence that you come into the NBA with when you've been the guy for multiple years for your team, right? And that's something I always point out. And that's what I like about guys like Chaz Lanier. I actually like this about Maxime Reynaud and Ryan Kalkbrenner. They know who they are and they're confident in who they are. They aren't guys where you're still questioning what they can do for you, right? They're not a big question mark if they can develop this and if they can put this together and if it all comes together, then they should be able to maybe. It's like, no, you know what you're getting from them and you're confident about it. And that's something that's really important when you're a team like the Detroit Pistons looking to make that leap, looking to take that next step. You're not looking for guys that are a big question mark. You don't want someone who's coming in and you're just like, well, hopefully, maybe with some time in the G League, maybe if they put that. That's not it. That's not it. So I like Chaz Lanier to be able to come in immediately, provide that shooting and off-ball movement, which I think allows you to keep the ball in the hands of guys like Marcus Sasser, even guys like Ron Holland attacking the rim, getting downhill, and the facilitating trio of Asar Thompson, Jaden Ivey, and Cade Cunningham. He allows you to keep the ball in the hands of guys that you want to have the ball, who need the ball to be most effective, while still having an effective scorer off ball who can have gravity with the defense. Now, the other guy that I like, and I've brought him up plenty of times, you guys should already know, my man out of Florida State, Jamir Watkins. Jamir Watkins is a guy on that second tier, right? So the first tier, just to kind of recap, Kobe Sanders. Oh man, sports times. You know what? Hey, I just appreciate when you're able to make it, man. I always appreciate the love. Daniel Williams was good. Salute, brother. It's good to have you in the house. Now, I thought about Proctor, but there's some things that I'm concerned about with Proctor as well. But I'm going to get to him in a moment. Jamir Watkins, similar to Kobe Sanders, he's going to have defensive versatility. At 6'7", he's going to be able to guard 1 through 3. I've already talked about him before, his ability to lock down a point guard, a high level athletic point guard, to Todd Pettiford in the NBA draft 5-on-5 scrimmages, locked him down, basically sent him back to school, right? After that game, the scouts were like, yeah, you need some more work. You're not ready for defenders on this level. But it also showed that Jamir Watkins is going to have the ability to guard opposing point guards. Think like what we saw from Aaron Nesmith guarding Jalen Brunson. That size and athleticism and length on a smaller guard, lead guard. And also knowing that he was also going to have the size and length to be able to guard up to someone like Jalen Williams or J Dub, right? And so that's the type of positional versatility that I think is going to give us a lot of depth so that no matter what, knock on wood, we know, injuries happen. But if Asar Thompson is out for 2 weeks, we still have depth on the wings. And I think this is something, if you look at who the Detroit Pistons have been bringing in to the draft, it's been this prototype. It's been this prototype. Can we get a shooter with some versatility, with some length? And keep in mind, I'll say this, a lot of the guys that they've been bringing in have been guys who are projected to be undrafted. Undrafted. So expect the Detroit Pistons to bring in guys who they are going to plug into their G League team to put into the farm. Put into the farm. So that maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, we have a high-level contributing player who's on the cheap, who already knows our system, right? This is an extremely effective strategy. Getting really good undrafted players who can get into your system and who can supplement your roster over the years as time goes on. So if somebody outprices themselves, we're not left in a position where we have to overpay or we have to be without someone who fills an essential role. But all that's to say is Jamir Watkins is somebody who I think is going to have positional versatility defensively for us at a high level on that Aaron Nesmith level. Now, unlike Nesmith, though, Jamir Watkins has far more on-ball skill. His ability to shot create, play make, and even set up the offense a little bit, which is what Florida State asked him to do more this season. I think that's what led to his kind of low three-point shooting percentage because it was his quality of three-point shots, not his form. His form looked good. I saw plenty of range. He was shooting from well behind the NBA three-point line consistently, so he looks comfortable as a shooter. I think he's somebody who comes in maybe similar to Ron Holland's volume last season, where he doesn't start off shooting as many threes, but as the season progresses, if he's in our rotation, I expect to see him take consistently 1 to 2 threes a game in about 10 to 12 minutes a game, right? That would be the outlook of someone like Jamir Watkins or even like Kobe Sanders. Now, I will say that I also like Kobe Bryant, but what I don't like is he didn't show me a lot off the bounce. What he looked like was a catch and shoot guy. He looked like a great, fantastic catch and shoot guy, but he's catch and shoot. He's somebody who can give you offense off ball, but if you force him to put the ball on the ground, I don't know if he has something else to go to. And that type of player, as I said at the beginning of this live, is not very effective in the playoffs. And remember, these Detroit Pistons, I don't think they're going to end up a higher seed, but I do think they will get better. I do expect fully next year they're walking into their championship window. And so anyone who is not going to foreseeably be effective for us in the playoffs, in a playoff rotation, we shouldn't even be considering. If I don't think you can give me a solid 8 to 12 minutes in the playoffs, I'm not even thinking of bringing you in. Yeah, I agree with you. No long talk. They better let go of Beasley. I just don't think Beasley is, I mean, I like him as a person. I like him as a teammate. I just don't think that he is effective for the playoffs. And I think that I would rather have a guy like a Aaron Wiggins type prototype, which is Jamir Watkins, which is Kobe Sanders, right? Alex Caruso, put the ball on the deck. They can pass the ball, defend multiple positions. They're going to rebound for you, get extra plays, loose balls, and they're eventually going to be able to knock down shots, even if not at the same volume, right? I would rather have a guy who does all of those other things. Appreciate the subscription. Let me get to some of these other comments because this is an interactive chat. Daniel Williams, I said I was going to come back to Proctor. Why I did not like Proctor. Proctor is too light in the pants. There was a level of physicality I just did not see from Proctor. And I believe that this game is getting more and more physical, especially when you get to the playoffs. That's why I also didn't like guys like Riley. He's too light in the pants. When the game gets physical, how do you respond? How do you respond? What are you going to give me? And I just don't see those type of prototype guys giving me something. Tayshaun Prince was wiry strong, still played physical, still played aggressive, right? Reggie Miller, wiry strong, thin guy, still played aggressive, still played physical, right? Guys like Proctor and Riley don't play physical. They're more passive, elusive guys who, when guys get up into them, are going to be affected in their ability to be productive on the floor. Let me get some of these other comments here. Ed Robinson was good. Was good. If the Pistons go Lanier, to me, that at least in part signals to me that Trajan believes in the development of Klintman. True. However, I will say Fleming is there. Take him. You know what? I would understand him taking Fleming. And at that point, I would start looking at Bobby Klintman is you're going to have to play the three, which I think he's going to be able to do. I'm just giving you my rankings. But I would not be mad at Fleming. I just don't like drafting over guys and then you just have a lot of repetitive talent at the same position. Because I think that there's a lot of skilled things that Bobby Klintman does that Rasheer Fleming doesn't do. I don't think Rasheer Fleming is going to be able to put the ball on the floor and maybe do some playmaking. I don't see him facilitating. I see Klintman being able to do both of those things. I do think that Rasheer Fleming is going to be a better rebounder, defender, and potentially volume shooter. But I think that Klintman develops his shooting and gets on par. So there's going to be a lot of overlap there. Trajan loves the wings. You know what? I think he should because the wings are one of those positions that you really can't have enough of, especially when they have a skill as well and athleticism. You know, because you see when you're trying to figure out how to match up against SGA and J-Dub, and then you still got Luguentz Dort, and then you still got, you know, Chet Holmgren and Aaron Wiggins and Caruso. Like, they almost put out a lineup with 4 wings. And sometimes Chet plays as a wing. And so you got to have depth at that position. You have to. And if we're honest, the Detroit Pistons really don't have depth at that position, right? They have K, they got Ivy, they got Asar. And then they got Ron Holland off the bench. After that, where's your wings? Maybe Bobby Klintman can play some of that small forward role, but we haven't seen that yet. And so I would be more than open to, and actually, I would recommend that Trajan Langdon take a hard look at another wing player who's also very skilled. Y'all appreciate everybody who's in here. We got 26 people in the chat. Please smash that like button for me. It definitely helps out with the channel. This is an interactive chat, so put your thoughts, ideas in the chat, and I will get to it. I'm only going to be in here for a little bit longer. Let me see. And if you want me to stop and pay attention to your chat question, feel free to shoot me a super chat. Always appreciate it as well. Let me see. Cassio, it's all good that you're late, man. I'm just glad you made it. What's your thoughts on Proctor? I already talked about him. Let me see. Dev was good. It's been a minute. Appreciate it. All right. Let me see. Ed Robinson. Watkins has not been a good shooter at any point in his collegiate career. I'll pass on him. I'll put it this way. There's a difference between not being a good shooter percentage-wise. If you see he's still shooting on, I wouldn't say a low volume, but an average volume. But I would look at his shot quality. That a lot of his shots, especially his three-point shots, are self-created. He's not an off-ball shooter. He's not somebody who's going to come to the ball, catch and shoot. He's more of a kick-out, catch and shoot guy. and then creating off the bounce. And so he's not necessarily a high uh, efficiency shooter, but I do think he could be someone like an Aaron Wiggins. I do think he can contribute like an Aaron Wiggins. Aaron Wiggins wasn't known as a shooter, I don't believe, coming into the NBA, but his defense, his athleticism, his ability to get out in transition and do other things, get downhill to the rim, all those things allowed him to progress and to continue to work on his 3-point shot. And now that it's coming consistently, he's giving you 15 to 20 something minutes in a playoff game in an NBA Finals. Let me see. Brady Scott report says he's a one-trick pony. That's what I said. Catch and shoot, and that's about it. Oh yeah, I gotta get off because my daughter needs some dad time. But Detroit got Ivy coming back. Facts. Let me see. I like Beasley. He was a target for Brunson in the playoffs. He was a target for Brunson. He was a target for Mikal Bridges. He was a target for OG Anunoby. Whoever he was matched up against, he was a target. Let me see. Uh, Inquiring about Alvarado and Boston Jr. You know what? I'm gonna be honest. I liked Alvarado, but I don't think he replicates too much of what Marcus Sasser does. Gives you more defense, maybe more facilitation, but not the same level of shot creation. And once again, that's an overlap. I don't really like doing the overlap thing. Boston Jr. Brandon Boston Jr. is nice. Good positional size, defensive versatility, and he showed a lot more skill this past season with the New Orleans Pelicans. So I appreciate that as well. I think that he's going to be someone who can definitely contribute at a high level. I wouldn't be mad about that type of a pickup because I also think he's an unrestricted free agent. Let me just, he might be restricted or unrestricted. Let me quickly tap in. New Orleans Pelicans, Brandon Boston Jr. He has a team option. He has a team option. And if I'm honest, if I'm New Orleans, I'm 100% bringing him back. So trading for him, why? If you can draft him, if you could draft him. Let me see. Who's deeper, Detroit or Phoenix? I don't even want to compare us to Phoenix, bro. I don't even want to compare us to Phoenix, bro. They're in another world, going in a totally different direction. Casio, you wouldn't like me on Kobe Sanders? Yeah, I think he's a sleeper for sure. How do you feel about a guy like Bryce Williams? He's an Aaron Wiggins type guy. I feel like he is going to fall into the classification of undrafted players who will likely be on our G League team and we can put into the farm. Let me see. You talk about Ryan Kalkbrenner. You could trade up for Fleming. Sports Times, I did talk about both already, but I'll give you just a quick. I don't want to use that pick for a guy who's going to be battling to be a third string backup center. It's just inconsequential. Like you're going to draft him to go to your G League team. He's competing against Tolu Smith, right? Tolu Smith's probably a little bit better offensively, probably mutual rebounding, you know, and Kalkbrenner is probably a better shot blocker. But Tolu Smith already has inroads of the culture, identity, schemes, playbook. So he's competing for a third string position. Doesn't seem worth that pick. Let me see. And Rasheer Fleming, like I said, I think he overlaps Bobby Clintman a little bit too much. Let's fill in positions of need with really good talent. And that gives us real depth, especially for the playoffs. Do we need to move up to get a quality player? I don't think so. I think there's going to be a lot of guys falling. We also have guys who fell out of the first round, who were projected to be in that first round, who may be available for us. Some of those guys, like Noah Pinda, plays small forward, though I'm not necessarily as high on him. I don't think he has the athleticism and defensive capability. There's Cam Jones, who I've talked about before, out of Marquette. Really good combo guy. Not a bad option either. And then you got guys like, the guys that I've already mentioned. So with that, I'm going to end this live. I appreciate you for coming out. Wiggins shot 41% in college. I did not realize that. Thank you for that stat. This is why I said I'll pass on Watkins, who's never been a good shooter. But I will say this. Alex Caruso was definitely not a high-level shooter in college. Knocked down a bunch of threes, right? So sometimes guys can develop a skill of necessity. But at the same time, we're going to have Marcus Sasser. We're going to have Isaiah Stewart. We're going to have Bobby Clintman. We're going to have Ron Holland. All those guys off the bench are shooting threes, right? We still got Simone Fontecchio. He's going to be shooting a lot of threes, right? And even if Jamir Watkins can't shoot threes, you know who we're probably going to end up bringing back? Our shooter. Did y'all forget? My man, I always forget his name. Lindy Waters. I expect Lindy Waters to come back on the cheap, veteran minimum, right? And he's a lights out shooter. So getting Jamir Watkins is more for the role that we need him. And that's why I like him. But hey, it's your man 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. I hope you enjoyed this live. Take some notes. I got the draft coming up this evening, this afternoon. Let's see if I'm right. Let's see which direction Trajan Langdon goes. He said the best talent possible. But at this point, I think there's a lot of guys who are kind of all on the same tier of talent. So we'll see what direction he goes. Please smash that like button for me and subscribe and the bell for notifications. I appreciate my community for showing up, showing out. I'm going to see y'all next time. Peace.